From a 15-year-old who cut off his classmate's head, to a teen couple who killed her dad and then laughed about it on YouTube. This is the most insane killer kid life sentences explained. Matthew Borges was 15 when he stabbed and beheaded his classmate Lee-Manuel Valoria Paulino. Not a cartel hit, not a gang killing. A jealous, quiet high school sophomore. Borges was obsessed with his classmate's girlfriend. He told friends he thought Lee was getting in the way. One afternoon in November 2016, Borges told Lee to meet him by the river in Lawrence, Massachusetts. They walked together along the water. Lee never came home. Days later, police found his body on the riverbank. It was missing the head and hands. A dog walker saw what looked like a pile of clothes. It wasn't. Investigators found a backpack, school papers, and a cell phone nearby. The brutality shocked even veteran officers. This was not a fight gone wrong. It was a killing planned by a teenager who wanted to make someone disappear. In his notebook, Borges wrote about his anger and fantasies of killing. He bragged to friends he had done something bad. He even returned to the scene to look at what he'd done. Detectives found the knife and bloody clothes in his home. The autopsy revealed multiple stab wounds before decapitation. The court said he showed no emotion, no reaction to the photos, nothing that looked like guilt. When the judge read the sentence, Borges stood still. The courtroom went silent. The family of Lee-Manuel cried, as the judge said some people cannot be rehabilitated. Borges got life in prison, with no chance of parole until he is old. For a boy who thought he was mature enough to kill, the court decided he was mature enough to die behind bars. That's why he never leaves prison. Sierra Halseth and her boyfriend, Aaron Guerrero, didn't just stab her dad, Daniel Halseth, to death. They filmed themselves laughing about it on YouTube. Sierra was 16. Aaron was 18. Her father had told them they couldn't see each other anymore, so they decided if he stood in their way, he wouldn't stand at all. On April 9th, 2021, Daniel's house in Las Vegas caught fire. Firefighters went inside, expecting smoke and damage. Instead, they found a burned body in the garage. The fire was set to hide what really happened. Daniel had been stabbed more than 70 times. Police traced credit card records and surveillance footage to the two teenagers, seen buying bleach, gloves, and lighter fluid before the fire. They fled across state lines, using Daniel's car and money, smiling on camera at a train station. Days later, police caught them in Salt Lake City. What shocked everyone wasn't just the murder, it was the video they filmed after it. In it, Aaron looks at the camera and says, "Day 3 after killing somebody." Sierra giggles beside him. They laugh about running away. They look like a couple on vacation, not two teens who just murdered her father. Prosecutors showed that video in court. The jury saw every smirk, every laugh. Sierra's mother cried while the clip played. The judge called them cold, calculated, and cruel. Aaron received life without parole. Sierra, still a minor, got a chance for parole after 25 years. But the internet will never forget what they recorded. That video still circulates online, proof that some crimes aren't just evil, they're performed. They laughed about killing her father on YouTube. That's why they'll never have a real future. Dylan Schumacher was 16, babysitting a 23-month-old named Austin. Austin ended up dead. Dylan ended up crying in court. The judge didn't buy it. It started as a normal night. Dylan's girlfriend left him to watch her baby while she went to work. The neighbors later said they heard thuds through the walls. Dylan claimed the baby wouldn't stop crying. When police arrived, Austin was unconscious, his face swollen, his brain bleeding. Doctors said he had been beaten over and over again. In interviews, Dylan said it was an accident. He said he just lost control, but the evidence said otherwise. The autopsy showed force so violent it caused massive trauma. The prosecutor played Dylan's own words from a phone call after his arrest. He said he hoped the jury would feel sorry for him. He wasn't talking about Austin, he was talking about himself. At sentencing, Dylan sobbed uncontrollably. He looked at the judge and begged for forgiveness. The courtroom stayed quiet. Then the judge leaned forward and told him, "You knew what you were doing." The judge said every punch was a choice, that every bruise was a decision, and that Dylan's tears were not grief, but manipulation. The baby's mother cried as the sentence was read, 25 years to life. Dylan stopped crying when the cuffs went on. The cameras captured him being led away, face blank, eyes forward. The prosecutor said there was no mistake here, just cruelty, a grown man's rage in a teenager's body. Dylan Schumacher learned that night that adult crimes come with adult sentences. The court didn't see a kid who lost control. They saw a killer pretending to be sorry. That's a grown man's sentence for a teenager. Alyssa Bustamante was 15 and said she wanted to know what killing felt like, so she picked a 9-year-old, Elizabeth Olton, lived just a few houses down in a quiet Missouri neighborhood. Alyssa smiled, played with her siblings, went to church, and posted pictures online like any other teenager. But behind that smile, she had already dug 2 graves in the woods behind her house. She told investigators she didn't know why she did it, but her notebook did. On October 21st, 2009, Alyssa lured Elizabeth out of her home with a simple lie. She told the younger girl they could hang out. Elizabeth never came back. That night, her family searched through the dark, calling her name. Police found her body days later, strangled, stabbed, and buried in one of the holes Alyssa had prepared in advance. It wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge. It was curiosity. When police searched Alyssa's room, they found her journal. In it, she wrote that she had just killed someone. She called it amazing and pretty enjoyable. Those words were read in court. Reporters said the jury went silent as the pages were read aloud. The defense tried to argue she was depressed, that she needed treatment, not prison. The judge disagreed. He said her planning proved she knew exactly what she was doing. Alyssa smiled for her mugshot. In court, she cried and said she was sorry, but the words in her diary never left the judge's mind. He sentenced her to life in prison plus 30 years. A teenager who killed just to feel something. She said she wanted to know what it felt like. Now she knows. That's why she got decades like an adult. Antonio Barbeau was 13. Nathan Papa was 14. They went to his grandmother's house with a hatchet and a hammer. They told themselves it was just to get some money. Antonio's grandmother, 78-year-old Joni Reuter, had always been kind to him. She let him stay over, cooked him meals, treated him like he could do no wrong. But that day, they planned to rob her. When she turned her back, they attacked. Joni was struck more than 20 times. The blows shattered her skull and broke her arms as she tried to protect herself. The boys dragged her body to the basement, then ransacked the house for cash. They found less than $200. Afterward, they went to eat pizza. They tried to pretend it hadn't happened. The weapons were found where they'd tossed them behind a bowling alley. In court, prosecutors described the killing as vicious and pointless. The judge said it was one of the worst crimes he had ever seen, not because of how brutal it was, but because of who did it, 2 middle schoolers. The courtroom looked at them and saw kids, but the evidence said otherwise. There was planning, there was motive, there was no mercy. When their sentences were read, Antonio and Nathan stood still, eyes down. Their families sobbed as the judge said the words life in prison. Both boys will spend decades before they even get a chance at parole. The judge told them they were too dangerous to be called children anymore. They weren't playing games. They were killers. Life, even though they were basically middle schoolers. Conrad Schaefer was 15 and shooting people in Florida for fun. The judge told him he wasn't getting out. Schaefer started small. He bragged online about wanting to know what it felt like to kill someone. Then he picked up a .22 caliber rifle and turned his neighborhood into target practice. His first victim was a random man waiting at a bus stop, shot in the head, dead instantly. Schaefer didn't run, he watched. Days later, he and his friends went on another drive-by, firing at strangers for no reason other than boredom. Police called it a thrill spree. Investigators linked him to 2 murders and multiple shootings. There was no robbery, no argument, no motive except curiosity. Schaefer told detectives he liked how powerful it made him feel. When they asked why, he said he didn't know. He just wanted to see what would happen. The prosecutor pushed to have him tried as an adult. The courtroom was packed with victims' families. Schaefer sat there smirking. He told a probation officer he didn't regret what he'd done. That line sealed his fate. The judge listed every name of every person shot, every life ruined, every chance at redemption gone. Then he looked at Schaefer and said, "You will die in prison." The sentence wasn't 1 life term. It was stacked life on top of life, so that even if the laws changed, he would never see freedom. The courtroom clapped as the judge finished reading. Schaefer showed no emotion. 15 years old when he started, already serving more time than he'll ever live. He wanted to know what killing felt like. Now he knows what forever feels like. The judge told him he wasn't getting out. Nicholas Cruz walked into Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School and murdered 17 people. Families begged the court to bury him. It was Valentine's Day 2018 in Parkland, Florida. Cruz arrived with a rifle and over 100 rounds of ammunition. He knew the bell schedule. He pulled a fire alarm to force students into the hallways. Then he started shooting. Classrooms turned into hiding places. Teachers shielded kids with their bodies. The shooting lasted less than 10 minutes, but by the time he walked out, 17 were dead and 17 more wounded. Cruz left the school calmly and went to get a drink at Subway. He blended in with students fleeing the chaos. Police caught him within an hour. During interrogation, he talked about voices in his head, about anger, about revenge, but the videos showed planning, lists, and target practice. The state charged him with premeditated murder. At trial, survivors took the stand. One mother said her son had texted her, "I love you," before dying. Another father said he wakes up every morning hearing gunshots that aren't there. The courtroom cried. Cruz didn't move, no tears, no reaction, just silence. When the verdict came, it wasn't death, it was life without parole. Families screamed in disbelief. The judge said the sentence wasn't mercy, it was permanence. She told him he would die in prison and that the only freedom he would ever have again would be in his dreams. Parents called it a failure of justice. Others said it was better that he rot. Nicholas Cruz never apologized. He never looked up. He just sat blank, as if 17 lives meant nothing. Some crimes are beyond parole. Martise Fuller was 15. His ex dumped him. He broke into her house, shot her in her bed, and shot her mother. He still said he was innocent. Fuller had dated Kaylee Juga for almost a year. When the relationship ended, Kaylee told friends she was scared of him. He wouldn't stop showing up at school, wouldn't stop texting. Her parents called police more than once. A restraining order was in place. None of it stopped what came next. On May 9th, 2019, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Fuller broke into Kaylee's home through a window while her mother was in another room. He carried a stolen gun. Kaylee was in her bedroom. He shot her twice. Her mother heard the noise and ran in. Fuller shot her too, hitting her in the leg before fleeing. Police found Kaylee dead at the scene. Her mother survived. She told officers exactly who had done it. Fuller was arrested hours later, hiding at a friend's house. In court, the evidence was overwhelming. Surveillance footage showed him casing the neighborhood. Phone data put him at the scene. Yet he told the judge he was innocent. The jury didn't believe him. The prosecutor called it a premeditated execution driven by jealousy. When the verdict was read, Fuller showed no emotion. Kaylee's mother faced him during sentencing. She said she hears the gunshots every night and sees her daughter's face every morning. The judge called the crime cowardly and cold. He said the lies only made it worse. Martise Fuller was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. Even then, he claimed he didn't do it. He broke in, shot his ex in bed, shot her mother, and still said he was innocent. DeMarquise Elkins was 17 when he pointed a gun at a mother pushing her baby in a stroller. She said she had no money. He shot the 1-year-old between the eyes. The mother's name was Sherry West. She was walking her baby boy, Antonio, down a quiet street in Brunswick, Georgia. It was the middle of the day. Elkins and an accomplice stopped her. They wanted her purse. When she told them she didn't have any cash, Elkins raised his gun. Sherry begged him not to hurt her child. He shot her in the leg. Then he leaned over the stroller and pulled the trigger again. Antonio died instantly. The bullet went through his head. Sherry collapsed, screaming for help as neighbors ran outside. The story spread across the country within hours. People couldn't believe it. A baby shot in his stroller during a robbery. Police released the composite sketch, and within a day, Elkins' own mother turned him in. The murder weapon was found hidden in a pond near her house. In court, the jury saw the gun, the shell casing, and the photo of the stroller. Elkins kept saying he didn't do it. Witnesses disagreed. His accomplice testified that Elkins pulled the trigger himself. The prosecutor said the crime showed a complete absence of humanity. The judge agreed. He said Elkins was old enough to make choices, and that what he did was unforgivable. When the sentence came, there were no tears, life without parole, no second chance. The mother said she wanted him to remember her baby's face every day he wakes up behind bars. DeMarquise Elkins wanted a robbery. He got a lifetime in prison. He shot a baby in a stroller. That's why he's never getting out. Danta Wright killed 18-year-old Jordan Klee in a robbery. In court, while the mother cried, Wright smiled and said, "I'll be home soon." It happened in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Wright and his friends planned to rob someone for cash and drugs. Jordan was a college student, barely older than Wright, meeting a friend that night. The plan went wrong fast. Wright pulled the trigger. Jordan was shot in the back of the head. The killers took nothing. The robbery that was supposed to make them money ended with a dead kid and no reward. Police caught Wright within days. The evidence was clear. His fingerprints were on the gun. His messages showed planning, and his friends turned on him. At trial, Jordan's mother read a letter about her son's last day alive. She said she hoped the killers saw his face every night when they closed their eyes. The courtroom was silent except for her crying. Wright looked straight ahead, smiling. When the judge asked if he had anything to say before sentencing, Wright smirked. He said, "I'll be home soon." The judge slammed his hand on the bench and told him, "No, you won't. He called Wright's attitude disgusting, his lack of remorse dangerous, and said that kind of evil didn't deserve another chance. The prosecutor asked for the maximum. The judge agreed. Life in prison without parole. As Wright was led away, Jordan's mother stared at him and said she forgave him. He laughed again. Cameras caught it. The judge shook his head, saying, "This is exactly why we build prisons." Danta Wright thought he was untouchable. Now he's locked away forever. The judge was right. He's not coming home soon. Brandon Spencer opened fire at a packed USC Halloween party. 4 people were hit. He begged not to get life. It was 2012, a campus event filled with students in costumes, music, and flashing lights. Spencer saw a rival gang member across the courtyard. They had bad blood from the streets. He left, got a gun, and came back. Hundreds of students were dancing when the shots started. People screamed and ran for cover. 4 men were hit, including the rival. None of them died, but it could have been a massacre. Police chased Spencer down minutes later. He claimed he was defending himself, that he just fired because he was scared. The surveillance video told a different story. It showed him raising the gun and firing into the crowd without hesitation. Prosecutors said it was pure revenge. The university went on lockdown as investigators collected shell casings and interviewed witnesses. At trial, Spencer's lawyer begged for leniency. He said his client was young, scared, and could still change. Spencer cried in front of the jury, saying he wished he could take it back. The victims sat in the front row listening. One of them had been paralyzed. The judge called the shooting reckless and cowardly. He told Spencer he was lucky no one died because if they had, he'd be facing the death penalty. When the sentence was read, Spencer looked shocked. 40 years to life. He thought he was walking out. He wasn't. The courtroom fell silent. The judge said there were too many bullets, too many chances to stop. Brandon Spencer walked into that Halloween party with a grudge. Now he's spending most of his life behind bars thinking about it. Jennifer Mee was once known as the hiccup girl. She went viral at 15 for having non-stop hiccups that lasted weeks. She was on national TV, smiling awkwardly as hosts tried to help her. Millions of people watched her clips, but a few years later, she wasn't on the news for hiccups. She was on the news for murder. At 19, Jennifer lured a man to be robbed. The plan ended with a bullet in his chest. It happened in St. Petersburg, Florida. The victim, Shannon Griffin, met Jennifer online. She told him they could hang out. When he showed up, 2 men were waiting. They robbed him at gunpoint. During the struggle, Griffin was shot and killed. Jennifer ran, but police tracked her down within hours. She admitted to setting up the meeting. She said she never meant for anyone to die, but under Florida law, it didn't matter. The court ruled she was just as responsible as the shooter. The jury saw the messages, the calls, and her taped confession. In it, she said she didn't know what to do after it happened, but prosecutors showed she helped plan every step. They called it a setup that turned into murder. The same girl who once laughed on TV about hiccups was now sitting in an orange jumpsuit. When the verdict came, she cried quietly. Life without parole. Reporters said she looked shocked, like she still couldn't believe it was real. The judge said fame didn't change what she'd done. Jennifer Mee's story went from TV screens to prison walls. A teenager who wanted attention got it, but not the way she planned. The hiccup girl went viral twice. The second time, it ruined her life. Philip Chisholm was 14 and stayed after school with his math teacher, Colleen Ritzer. He attacked her, killed her, and dragged her body into the woods. It wasn't a fight, it was planned. Colleen was 24, a young teacher loved by students at Danvers High in Massachusetts. That afternoon, she asked Philip to stay after class to work on an assignment. Security footage showed them leaving the room one after the other. Minutes later, the hallway camera caught him pulling on gloves and a hood. Colleen went into the bathroom. Philip followed. What happened next was too violent to show in court. He slit her throat, stole her credit cards, and stuffed her body into a recycling bin. He wheeled it through the hallways, out a side door, and into the woods behind the school. He covered her with leaves and went to a movie theater. He watched a film, ate fast food, and acted like nothing happened. When police found him that night, he still had the knife, her underwear, and her belongings in his backpack. During questioning, he smiled and said nothing. Detectives said he showed no sign of guilt. He told them he hated math and didn't like being told what to do. That was his reason. The prosecutor said the murder was deliberate, calculated, and evil. The defense called it mental illness. The jury didn't agree. They said he knew exactly what he was doing. The judge sentenced him to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. Colleen's parents sat in court, holding hands. The judge said it was one of the coldest crimes he'd ever seen. Philip Chisholm planned it, carried it out, and walked away like nothing happened. Erin Caffey was 16 when she decided her parents had to die. Her father had grounded her, told her to stay away from her boyfriend, Charlie Wilkinson. Instead, she whispered a plan to him. If her parents were gone, they could be together forever. She promised him love, freedom, and money from a safe inside the house. He agreed. On March 1st, 2008, they went through with it. It was 3 a.m. when Charlie and a friend kicked in the door of the Caffey home in Emory, Texas. Erin waited in the car down the road. Inside, her parents woke to gunfire. Her mother, Penny, was shot multiple times and stabbed repeatedly. Her two little brothers, ages 8 and 13, were shot in their beds. Her father, Terry, was hit 5 times, but crawled out through a window while the house burned. The men set it on fire as Erin sat outside, listening to the screams. Terry survived and told police who did it. When officers found Erin, she acted confused. She asked if her family was okay. Detectives said she never shed a tear. The prosecutor said it was manipulation at its purest form. The judge agreed. Erin got life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. She was 16 when she ordered the murders of her own family. Some killers pull the trigger. She made others do it for her. Jasmine Richardson was 12 when she helped murder her mom, her dad, and her little brother. 12. She planned it with her 23-year-old boyfriend, Jeremy Steinke, a man she met in an online gothic chat room where they called themselves werewolves. That night, they made it happen. Her mother was stabbed more than a dozen times. Her father tried to fight, but bled out on the stairs. Her 8-year-old brother begged for his life before she covered his mouth and stabbed him too. The next morning, neighbors saw blood on the windows and called police. When officers entered, they found the bodies and a family photo covered in blood. The only person missing was Jasmine. She wasn't kidnapped. She was laughing in a diner with Jeremy, wearing black eyeliner and a choker with fake fangs. She told friends she'd done it for love. The arrest photos looked like a Halloween costume. She didn't cry, didn't ask for her parents. The courts had no category for this. She was too young for adult prison, too brutal for a juvenile one. The judge gave her 10 years in a psychiatric youth facility and community supervision until she was 22. Not life, not even close. Today she's free. New name, new identity, living somewhere in Canada. The 12-year-old who murdered her family walked out as an adult with no record, while the people she killed will never age another day.